Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome yet again to another episode of Dinner Guide. My name is Chef Andy and I'll be your host. Today I'm going to be showing you something very simple. I'm going to be showing you something very vegetarian, or rather not so vegetarian, but something you can actually be able to do yourselves, and it's really simple. I'm going to be working with some beautiful ingredients which I'm going to show you now. So I'm going to be using a bit of some fresh parsley. I've got some beautiful cauliflower. I've also got some spring onions there and some tomatoes, some olive oil, a bit of some white onion, some fresh coriander, a bit of paprika and a bit of cumin powder. I also have a bit of taco seasoning, a bit of tomato paste, a bit of salt, a bit of garlic there, and last but not least, some cooked ham. So without further ado, we're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, we're going to be jumping straight into this. So if you are going to be taking any notes or taking this recipe down, do grab your pen and paper, and when we come back, we should be ready to go. See you after a short while. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're just about to start the dish, and we're first of all going to be cutting up some of our vegetables. So I will first of all show you how to deflour this beautiful piece of cauliflower. So as you can see, the stalk has already been removed, and I'm just going to use a very short knife or a very small knife for this purpose. So all I'm going to do is just press my knife right to the middle and then just start working my way in a circle. So very simple technique, and you actually manage to pull out quite a bit of the florets from the cauliflower. So once your knife has gone through, this should actually just be able to break open like so, and simply just run your knife right around. So very important, this particular cuts of, or rather this particular trimmings, and I particularly like to always save those. They're very good, especially when you're going to be doing any soups or you're going to be making some stock. Very handy, so please never just chuck them away. You can actually cook this and it is actually edible. Right, so I'm just going to use my knife now to continue breaking up the cauliflower. I'm just going to quickly just leave them as chunks. So the reason for that is we're basically not going to be blanching these, we're going to be frying them in a bit of oil. And as I said, very important that you don't throw all the trimmings off your cauliflower, especially these beautiful thick stems that are on the inside. They're actually very handy, and I like to particularly throw them in a bit of soup, or if I'm making a bit of vegetable stock. They're actually very good for flavor, and they actually give your stock a very beautiful color. Just going to finish that last piece. And this is now ready to fry. So we're going to give our oil just a few seconds to heat up, so just give that a bit of time. And while that continues, we're going to quickly chop some white onion, which we're basically going to start frying on the side. So what we're going to be doing is we're just going to start building the sauce as we continue. Remember, this is more like a one-pot kind of style of cooking, so everything's actually going to be done in a pan. So we're just going to get this beautiful big pan going. And we're basically just going to start frying up our vegetables and basically building the sauce. And this is actually something you should be able to do in the nick of time. So very essential cider that you can have, or accompaniment you can have with any of the meals this particular festive season. And this particular recipe actually really calls for very, very small attention, and the flavors are very, very big. So it actually is one of the most recommended recipes I could actually share with you all. Right, so without further ado, we're just going to start by cutting up our white onion. We're just going to take those dark tips off. And all we're going to do is just do a few sleeves of the white onion like that. And we're just going to quickly chop that up. So very, very simple technique. If you actually haven't tried it before, or you haven't seen it on the show, I'm just going to do it really slowly for you to see. So very, very simple. All I do is put about 3 to 4 incisions onto my onion, and then I cut across just almost till you get to the end of your onion, and then the rest basically your knife does for you. So very, very simple technique, and you actually waste less of your onion. So if you can be able to see, only the root tips are what remains, and you actually utilize majority of your onion. So I'm just going to finish chopping this up. So I'm using a white onion particularly for the reason that it is not as pungent as red onion, and it actually really, really gives a beautiful finish to your sauce, especially to this particular one we'll be doing today. And we're also going to be strengthening the flavors with a bit of some chives which I have on the side, and we're also going to be chopping those. So just gonna give that a bit of time to cool off. It's a bit hot. We're just gonna give that a few seconds. And while we do that, we're also going to chop up some of the chives. So just quick rough chop. Right, simple as that, and this can now just go into a nice, beautiful hot pan. So we're just going to reheat that quickly. Right, so into your pan goes a bit of olive oil. So I'm gonna go with about 1.5 tablespoons. And to that, we're just gonna go in with our onions. Right, so basically what you want to do at this stage is fry your onions for about 3 to 4 minutes, just to let them sweat out a little bit. And remember, pan is on medium to low heat. So all we are going to do is just fry those for a few seconds just to get them to sweat. And while that continues, we're also going to be adding to that a bit of garlic. Very, very simple technique. All we are going to do is peel those really quickly. And all you want to do now is just get some beautiful thin slices. Right, simple as that. And now this is we're going to incorporate that with our onions. Basically just fry that till it's a little more fragrant. And now I'm just going to turn my heat a little higher, and we're going to start incorporating some of these beautiful spices we have on the side here. So as I said, I have a bit of some taco seasoning, which we're gonna go with about a teaspoon. And then I'm also gonna go in with 2 teaspoons of cumin powder, just regular cumin powder, and about half a teaspoon of paprika. And all you want to do is just fry those for just a little bit, just until you've got the aromas coming through. So simple as that. So we're just going to allow that to continue frying for a few more seconds, just to really get the flavors flowing. And to the pot on the side here, remember we had some hot oil, and what we're going to do is just fry out the cauliflower. So I'm just going to drop some of those heads in there, and also be very, very particular to not fry too much at once. Remember, you just want to color them really quickly. And we're just going to have this beautiful bowl on the side just to take them out. And for that reason, I'm just going to grab some tongs here. Right, so the mixture is now just infused and it's just about ready. So we're going to turn down the heat and we're just going to give that a bit of time. And then while we give that a bit of time, we're just going to finish off with our cauliflower. So as you can see, it colors very, very quickly. So I always insist, please don't walk away from your pot at this particular stage. The cauliflower really colors really, really fast. And it's very, very easy to overcook them. So very particular not to leave them cooking in there for too long. So I'm just going to go in with the rest of our pieces. And all we're going to do is just color them a little bit. And then we're basically now going to incorporate everything into the pot on the end. So while that continues, I'm just going to clear some of the stuff on the stage here. And I'm just going to grab this. So basically, remember this, we're going to be cooking really, really quickly. And basically, we're going to gratinate this in the oven. So I'm just going to go as far as coloring them slightly. And then we're basically going to continue cooking our sauce and building it from that point. Right, so these are just about done. So I'm just going to turn back the heat on this side. So remember, in here we only have the onions and a bit of the dry seasoning, a bit of the spices. So now I'm just going to go in and add just a bit of the beautiful coriander, fresh coriander leaves, and all I'm going to do is break those and just tear them just loosely, the tip of my fingers. And we're going to do the same thing with a bit of the parsley. So basically just break them and just leave them as chunks, but just tear them loosely with the tips of your fingers. And you just want to fry those. So basically I particularly like to throw my herbs in there, my fresh herbs in there chunky, so that it actually gives it a bit of a color as well. Right, so our cauliflower is about a minute away. And to that, we're going to be adding also about 2 teaspoons of just regular tomato paste. And you want to continue frying that for about another 1 or 2 minutes. So this should actually be cooking into a very, very thick kind of consistency. And that's exactly what you're looking for. Remember, it's a more of a very, very dry accompaniment. So this is not really going to be saucy. And basically the idea is to just make it a little more pleasurable to actually enjoy your cauliflower. Remember, there are so many other options to cooking cauliflower, and the most particular one most of you would know is blanching them. But it is a bit of a very, very bland recipe and a very bland technique of working with your vegetables. So this particular technique is just one of those different ways you can actually try and spice up your dinner event when you're working with a bit of cauliflower. Right, so it's about another minute. In that meantime, we're just going to quickly just dice up our tomatoes. And this is going to go into the pot as well. Right, so basically the idea is to just continue frying this. Just allow the tomatoes to just slightly break as you continue frying. So cherry tomatoes also a very good alternative to using in this particular recipe. I just particularly wanted to use something more easier and a little more understandable for most of you, but you can actually use cherry tomatoes with this particular recipe. It still really gives you a very, very good finish. Right, so our cauliflower is now done. Just going to quickly take those out of the oil. So very simple recipe, as I mentioned. You can actually do the same thing with some broccoli if you have some. You could particularly do it with a lot of vegetables, but I would always insist, try to use a vegetable that will actually be able to cook really well in the oil, just to give it a bit of color, and then you just finish off the dish afterwards. So to that, I'm just going to add the cauliflower. I'm just going to continue mixing that for about another 4 to 5 minutes. And I'm just going to turn the heat a little higher. Right, so simple as that. And last but not least, we're also going to be adding a bit of our cooked ham. So I'm just going to quickly, roughly chop that up. And I can add all that into a nice big pot on the side. Right, so we're basically going to continue cooking this for maybe another minute and a half. Remember, the cauliflower is already cooked, the ham is already cooked, so this is basically just to try and incorporate a bit of flavor to it. So this should be going for about another minute, and then we're just going to take it out and gratinate it. But before we do so, we're going to take a short commercial break, and when we come back, I'm going to be able to show you the gratination process. So please don't touch that dial, we'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is now just about done, so we're just going to turn off the heat. We're just going to give it a nice quick mix. So if you can be able to just see it from the cameras there, our cauliflower is still just holding shape really well. So as you can see, it doesn't actually break apart. So now very simple. Now I'm just going to show you, this is actually ready to serve as it is. I would probably just season lightly with a pinch of salt. So this is actually edible to have as it is right now, but for presentation purposes, I am going to show you something just before we finish the dish off. I'm going to show you a process called gratinating, and basically it's a very simple technique. You'll actually require a bit of water for that. I've also got a bit of breadcrumbs there, a bit of salt, and an oven-proof bowl. So this particularly, I have actually made sure that this is safe to put in the oven, which is something I also recommend for you viewers at home. Please always try and make sure whatever you're going to be putting in your oven is actually oven-proof, because you don't want to put your food in there and then move it to the oven, and then your whole casserole dish just breaks apart and you actually have to lose your whole dish. So please always make sure that your dishes are actually oven-proof, that they can actually be able to resist the heat before you actually decide to use them. So very simple. I'm just going to move back to the gratinating. So all I'm going to do is, first of all, scoop this into the bowl that I'll be baking in. So I'm going to be using this particular one. I'm just going to fill it to the top. So this is about a portion. So this will definitely do really well for kids, for about 2 kids or 1 adult, as per nutritionist regulations. Right, so simple as that. All I'm going to do is use the spoon to just try and spread it around evenly. Right, so easy as that. And now just to finish it off, probably just pinch of salt. And last but not least, a generous topping of some breadcrumbs. So this is just regular breadcrumbs. And the beauty of this particularly, very, very good for presentation purposes. Also gives your dish a nice, beautiful crunchiness right on the top. And it actually really enhances the dish, and the textures of the crumbs and the softness of the cauliflower really, they actually really marry well together. And it's probably just a similar technique I would use if I was making macaroni and cheese, for instance. So I have some just regular water here, which I'm going to pour into this container. And this particular process is very, very crucial because, first of all, it actually stops your, it actually limits any chances of you cracking your bowl in the oven, or your bowl just getting really, really hot and decolorizing the sides. So the actual idea for a double boiler method, this just allows you to actually just to get the heat to just concentrate more on the top of the dish, and basically not allowing the whole ceramic dish to actually get so much fire that goes right into it. So very, very simple and very, very crucial. And particularly for this stage, it's always very, very crucial that you have a bowl that is slightly taller, so that you don't actually take any chances in having all the water spill into your dish. So this we're just gonna throw into the oven. And remember, this is basically gratinating, which means I'm only using the top element, which means I only want the top of the dish to actually color up, and basically that should be it, and it should be actually ready to serve. But while that continues cooking, I am going to show you one that we had done a little earlier. And basically, just from this one, you can actually be able to see the beautiful colorization of that beautiful, the breadcrumbs right on top. And as I said, the whole idea is just to enhance a bit of presentation. So this is particularly done. So this is just as simple as I would serve it. And as I said, this goes really well as a cider or as a side dish. So this can actually accompany any of the dishes that you might be thinking of doing for your family. And this is also a very, very good option for kids, especially if you're thinking of making something for the weekends or for those special occasions. So from my end, it has been a pleasure being with you today. My name is Chef Andy. You have been watching Dinner Guide on BrandPlus TV. I also recommend that you do check out our Facebook page, leave your comments and queries and any questions you have, and we'll be glad to get back to you. From my end at the studios, it has been a pleasure being with you today, and until the next episode, have a lovely evening.